All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the wins continue to pile up for James Franklin as Penn State's head football coach, except for when he faces either Michigan or Ohio State. Franklin's Nittany Lions, they took the field today at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, undefeated and ranked third in the nation as they hosted fourth ranked Ohio State. And for the backers of the Nittany Lions, they had a lot to cheer about early. Penn State got off to the quick 10 to nothing start after the pick six by Zion Tracy to give them the 10 to nothing lead about midway through the first quarter. But the Buckeyes would immediately respond on a touchdown drive to make it 10 to 7. And then before you blinked, Ohio State was ahead 14 to 10, and they took that lead into the locker room at the half. So overall, we saw Penn State lose this game today, 20 to 13. Their offense was held out of the end zone. And on top of being held out of the end zone, both halves ended with Penn State having goal to goal situations and not getting any points. Okay, you've got to capitalize in those situations. You've got to score touchdowns, especially against a team like Ohio State. And Penn State was unable to do that today. Ohio State limited Penn State to just 270 yards of offense. And the Boo Birds were out in Happy Valley today. You have to ask yourself, are the Penn State faithful getting tired of this act from James Franklin? It's one of those where, again, James Franklin, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that, oh, he's the worst coach around, this, that, and the third, because he's not. Okay. You don't win as many games as he has by accident. But the problem is he doesn't win the big games. Okay. That's what has kept and what will continue to keep Penn State like a tier down, a tier or two down in comparison to other programs, other big time programs. He's 95 and 40 now at Penn State, but he's 60 and 33 within the Big Ten. Five conference losses over the last 2+ years. All of those conference losses have come to Michigan and Ohio State. You look at it for Penn State. Luckily for them, they still have a very favorable schedule coming down the stretch. You're talking about Nittany Lions team that's now 7-1. They've got Washington at home next Saturday. After that they travel to West Lafayette to take on Purdue. They're at Minnesota, and then they finish up at home against Maryland. But the thing is, right now, Penn State clearly loses a tiebreaker to Ohio State for trying to get to the Big Ten championship game. You still got Oregon up there as an undefeated team within the Big Ten as well. So the point is like it's an uphill battle for Penn State now to try to get to that Big Ten championship game. And of course, if you don't win your conference championship, you're not going to get a first round bye for the college football playoff. Penn State's going to be in the mix, okay? And barring something unforeseen, they will be a playoff team because you look at it in recent years, the biggest thing that has prevented Penn State from being a playoff team has been their inability against both Michigan and Ohio State. But you look at these games, and I think today was a microcosm of that because it's the same old song for James Franklin's Nittany Lions. It's their offense's inability to produce points against the big teams. You look at the last 2 years, Penn State has limited Ohio State to just 40 points in those two games, but they themselves have only scored 25. You look at it, Franklin recruits good players and he has a solid program. I am not here to take that away from him. He sends guys to the NFL, but and I said this before, after some key losses to Michigan, in recent years as well. He has never gotten those explosive players on offense, with the exception of Saquon Barkley, which is something that is going to has and will continue to hinder him against those top programs such as Ohio State and others. It's one of those where you look at Penn State's offenses under James Franklin, plain and simple, they're predictable. Okay, they're predictable. He relies on the system, but he doesn't have those playmakers to get him over the top offensively. That is one thing that continues to hurt him. And also, it comes down to execution. Okay, and the execution or the lack of it, plain and simple, starts and ends with the head coach because this is his program. And for James Franklin, the buck stops with him. So some would ask, would Penn State move on from James Franklin? And I'm here to tell you more than likely not. You're talking about a guy who, in the last 2+ seasons alone, has won 28 games. You're talking about a Penn State program in the last 2+ years. They're 28-6. Okay. And they do have an opportunity to make the playoff. They began this year ranked. Penn State more than likely is going to finish the regular season ranked, and they're going to be a playoff team. But I will say this, okay, let's say Penn State does, make the playoff like most of us expect them to do. They're going to have a home game more than likely, and they're going to be playing a top team. But if Penn State loses that game, because we already saw the Bluebirds at our Beaver Stadium today, it's only going to be something that is going to be escalated. And I think, some within the support, the fan base, there are really starting to get frustrated. But I will say this, he's got a huge buyout. I don't, hypothetically speaking, I don't see Penn State making that type of move. So you look at it, Franklin's going to continue to win. Franklin's going to continue to befuddle people because his program is good enough to be with the big boys, but they're still not good enough to be one of the big boys, if that makes sense. Okay, for James Franklin's teams will continuously go out there, produce 10, 11 wins a season. James Franklin's teams will continue to be one of the top programs in the Big Ten. But until they're able to get over that hump, and I think it starts with Franklin, he's got to think outside, start thinking outside of the box. It's not just guys that fit his system. He's got to find guys that are going to elevate things. And he's been unable to do that on the offensive end. And this is why his clubs continue to fall short in games like this. You had a goal to go situation to end both the first half and second half and got absolutely nothing out of it. Your defense put you in a prime position to go out there and win this game, and you could not get it done. Like I said before, this falls into the lap of the head coach, James Franklin. One is an accident, two is a trend, and this right here is a problem. You're talking about a guy now who is 1-10 in his career at Penn State against the guys from Columbus. He's 1-9 against top 5 teams. That simply ain't going to get it done. So I think Penn State rebounds from this. I think they finish strong. I think that they get to the college football playoff, whether that's as Big Ten Conference champions, which I think it's a long shot right now, or as an at large bid. But nonetheless, even a berth to the playoff is not going to quiet James Franklin's critics. It's not going to diminish the questions because I guarantee you, come playoff time, if Penn State's there and they're taking on a top 10 team, guess what? The same things that myself and a lot of other people around the college football landscape, whether it's fans, analysts, whoever, are talking about today and are going to keep talking about, it's going to be his inability to get it done in those key moments. And until James Franklin does that as a Penn State head coach, this is going to be a cloud that's going to hang over him and his program. How will Penn State rebound from this? We got to wait and see. You've got a solid tight end in Tyler Warren. You've got good backs. You've got a solid quarterback in Drew Aller, but they've got to find a way to get over that hump, or else a month from now or so, when the college football playoff kicks off, we're going to be talking about the same old thing. Will things change for James Franklin and Penn State? Only time will tell. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, Please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.